All right. I'm sure everyone's heard about this article already, but it was so astonishing to me that it woke me from my slumber and made me do another video. So this white company wanted to demonize black people, so they hired this black fuck slut and paid him to transcribe their thoughts. That way, when people point out their racism, they can say, no, it wasn't us. It was this black person who thinks this. We just agreed with it and we published it. So obviously, this article is a disgusting piece of garbage. But there were two lines in the article that got my attention, and I wanted to talk about them. The first one was this: African Americans have the highest divorce rate of any racial group. Well, this is a statistic presented by white people, so I don't really believe it. But what the hey, let's go over this real quick. Black American women are a very unique group on this planet because of the horrors of slavery and the systematic terror that's been rained down on black Americans. As a result, black women have developed two specific traits that other women don't tend to have. Let me go over both of these traits. So during slavery, black women had to assume the role of head of household a lot of times, and this was for a variety of reasons. So if a black man and woman slave decided they wanted to get together and start a family, the white slave owners would engage in many different demonic acts that would break up that family. Sometimes they would just take the black father out and they would rape him for fun. Sometimes they would publicly break the black father in front of the other slaves in order to make a point. Sometimes they would emasculate the black father to show their own dominance. And these are just a few examples of the things done to the black father during slavery. This, of course, would have a psychological effect that would keep the man from being the best father or partner that he could be. And as a result, the black mother had to step up and take that role. And of course, in many cases, the black father would just be executed or lynched. And so the black mother had no choice but to be the primary parent of whatever family they created. You also have other reasons why black women had to take on the role of primary parent. Sometimes, after starting a family with a black man, the master would sell the black father, or the black mother and her children would be sold. This would obviously divide the family, and the black mother now had no choice but to be the primary parent. Sometimes the slave owner or other white men who worked under him would just rape the black women. They would impregnate them and then abandon them. Now, this poor woman has a child to raise on her own, so again, she obviously has to be the primary parent in the home. Once slavery was quote unquote ended, black men were still targeted, and this, of course, affected the black woman. A black family could be working just fine, and then one day the father's kidnapped and lynched, or he's kidnapped and put in prison to work as a slave. Now that black mother is forced to be the primary parent of that family. Moving into more modern times, black men are either denied the same opportunities as everyone else, and so it falls on the black mother to carry more of the burden that she should, more than she should have to. And real quick, I just want to go over a quick example so I don't appear hyperbolic. Let's just take a very quick look at the tragic story of Khalif Browder. Khalif was a young man who was snatched off the street and kept in jail for years while the justice system tortured him to try and force a confession out of him. After standing his ground all those years, he was finally set free because the system had no case, which means that an innocent young man was just taken off the street, arrested, and imprisoned for no reason. After being set free, Mr. Browder couldn't reconcile what he had experienced and killed himself. Very tragic story that I hate. Now, what if Mr. Browder had done what all men do on this planet? Let's just do a what if. What if he, at some point in his life, had met a young woman, he slept with her, and got her pregnant? Well, what that means is ultimately the family that he and that young lady would have, that they created, it wouldn't have lasted because we know what happened to Mr. Browder. And this stuff happens all the time. Black men meet and create a family with black women, but then our government steps in and destroys the black man by locking him up for, in most cases, doing nothing at all. That man is then stuck in a box and forced to endure horrible things. When he's released, he's no longer the same, and being a good father to a family is something he doesn't really know how to do. In those cases, what happens? Well, the black mother has no choice now. She has to step up and be the primary parent. Now, I went over all that to explain the first trait that black American women have. Black American women know how to get it done when it comes to families. They've been conditioned to do whatever it takes to figure life out on their own. Slavery, racism, and systematic black terrorism has forced the black American woman into that role. If you're a Black American woman and you start a family that doesn't work out the way that you wanted, you know how to figure it out and get it done. Obviously, there are women all over the planet who do have that trait, but Black American women are the masters of that because more of them had to practice it. Now, let's get on to the second trait. Again, due to slavery and the racism that was needed to keep that going, Black American women have been made to feel invisible. White Europeans have worked to convince Black women that their features are ugly, from their thick thighs to their wide hips, to their big butts, to their dark skin, to their thick, strong hair, to their full lips. Because of racism and jealousy, whites have lied and spread this idea that the Black woman is unattractive, even though they do everything to try and obtain those features themselves. As a result of this racist propaganda campaign, Black women have been made to feel invisible. White and Asian women shun them out of jealousy, and white and Asian men ignore them because they're intimidated by them and because they themselves don't want to be shunned by whatever society they belong to. So Black women have always felt invisible to the world. As a result, they've learned this second trait, and that trait is Black American women don't give a fuck about what people think of them. Because in their mind, no one's really thinking of them anyway. Now, this affects Black men as well, but it affects Black women a bit more. This is the reason why you'll see a lot of Blacks who spend all their money to be flashy by buying loud, expensive clothes, or driving expensive cars with spinning rims, or getting those crazy, fake, long fingernails that they get. It's really a way of saying, hey, look at me. I exist. I'm normal, and it's okay to like me. Now, I went over those two traits because they help explain why, if it's true, African Americans have the highest divorce rate of any racial group. When it comes to every other culture, women are very reluctant to leave their husbands for two reasons. They fear that it'll be too hard to support themselves and their children when the husband is gone, and being a divorced single mother looks bad to the people in their society, and they don't want to look bad. So most women in other cultures, they'll stay in a marriage because they fear those two things. But as we discussed earlier, those two things are not that huge of a concern for Black American women because, again, Black American women know how to get it done and they don't give a fuck about what people think of them. So if a Black American woman is in a relationship with a toxic guy, or if she's toxic herself and just wants to be single again, she's not as afraid to leave as some other women from other cultures. So in reality, if African Americans actually do have the highest divorce rate of any racial group, it's because our women are strong enough to make that decision if it needs to be made or if they want to make it. Now, I don't condone divorce and I don't respect people who take marriage and child raising lightly. But I'm sick and tired of white publications demonizing us as a people. So whenever they try to, I feel we should come back with a bit of foundational Black American clarity. Oh, and one last thing. This cock gobbling author of this article also said the following. He said, Black women should not be held hostage to the struggles of Black men. Wow. Now, these struggles that he speaks of, these struggles, they tend to be an extension of the psychological and financial trauma that we face due to systematic white racism. So what this white-run publication is purposely saying through the pathetic, dickless Black person that they hired to write their words is this. We, the white society, are going to go out of our way to destroy your Black men. And we're now giving you Black women permission to step out of the way while we destroy them. You can now date and marry our white men, but only until we're finished destroying the Black man. Because once that's done, we'll be coming back for you. So, of course, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know what I'm going to say next. Please stop shopping. I'm going to try my best going forward to start giving examples of how your money is used against you. So for an example, let's just look at this article. This article is used to demonize Black men and to destabilize and destroy Black families. This will in turn hurt Black women. So how can you fight back? And what will not shopping do to help make this right? Well, this article was published by the New York Post. It's this shitty newspaper in New York. Most of you are probably saying, well, I don't buy that newspaper anyway, so who cares? I don't shop with them, so I'm not helping. Well, the owner of this newspaper is a guy by the name of Rupert Murdoch. He's a white, rich person who has his hands in a lot of things. One way that wealthy people stay wealthy is they use their money to make money. meaning they invest their extra money that they have, money that they don't really care about, into other companies, and then they gain ownership in those companies. So when you shop, it doesn't matter where, more than likely, you're giving your money to these rich white people who are doing things like releasing anti-black articles like this, or doing things that are much worse, like financing certain people who push policies that destroy our lives. You never know who you're financing when you spend your money. In this case, if you're paying for a subscription to the streaming service Hulu, then you're helping to make this guy rich because he has ownership in that company. So when you pay your monthly Hulu subscription fee, he makes money. And he's using your money to pay the editor, publisher, and writer of this sick propaganda that we just discussed. That's why I'm pushing this stop shopping method. When you blindly spend your money, you don't know who you're financing. You don't know what your money is being used for. So if you want something to change, or you're pissed off with the way things are going in this country or on this planet, you got to stop with the marching and the singing and the clapping and just foolishly talking online and talking in groups and talking in circles and going to church and praying. Stop all that shit. It doesn't mean anything to anyone. It doesn't affect anyone. The only way that you'll get things going is if you pull your money from this white economic system. Stop shopping. When I say stop shopping, I don't mean you can't buy anything anymore, obviously. I mean change the way you shop. Pull your money from the big chain stores, because those stores are all connected to these big oligarchs who create the policies that control your life. Because again, these wealthy people invest in all these companies. They own pieces of these companies. So when you go out on the weekends and you spend your money, you're just boosting their portfolio, their stock portfolio. They can pull money from that. The extra money that they make from those portfolios, they use to fund other projects. They use to fund politicians. They use to fund other businesses. So you have to stop shopping. If you need groceries, don't go to big stores like Stop and Shop or Kroger or Walmart. Go to a small mom and pop shop or a farmer's market. If you need clothes or appliances, try getting them online from an overseas seller. You have to stop funding this white economic machine because you're funding your own genocide. I don't ask people to share my videos or to like or subscribe or none of that stupid shit. I just ask that you share the concept and the idea that if you stop shopping, that's the only way that you'll get some change. Stop shopping.